Hey, what's up, everybody? The VC here, coming at you with another video. It's about life, lifestyle, entertainment, anything and everything. That's what it's all about. And shared opinions are welcome. Well, what I've been doing these last few days has been focusing on this whole LA wildfire situation, and it kind of exposes how bad and corrupt California really is, to the point of there's corruption and incompetency at the same time, and it's like both, and it's crazy. And so I want to do a continued update on what's going on with this whole LA fire situation. We're going to look at how much of it's contained, and other aspects of you know stupid ideology and progressivism, and why we're at where we're at. And it's funny how people are speaking out now, because I guess it's not feel good, a feel good story anymore. For example, like Kamala's Idiocracy, but people want to vote for it because it just feels good, right? I mean, but if you look at policies and beliefs, it's like, no, it's bad. Well, it's the same thing with the rest of California Democrats. But anyhow, that's a side story here. We're really looking at, well, it's kind of a side story, but at the same time, we're looking at the main fire situation and what's going on here. So,
Good day, late 6 o'clock. I am Melvin Robert.
And I'm Jen Lammers as we continue day 6 of our coverage of these historic wildfires. Firefighters are bracing for strong winds yet again in the Palisades fire zone. 8 people there have died. Palisades has burned nearly 24,000 acres with only 13.
8 dead just in the Palisades zone alone. I think they said it's up to, I want to say 16 now total, and 13% contained. So it's gone up 2%. So it was 11% yesterday, and now it's up to 13%. So
13% containment. LAFD's fire chief says more than 5,000 structures are damaged or destroyed, and 11,000 more are under threat. And the scars of the Palisades fire run deep, not just, we're talking about the landscape, but on the hearts of its victims.
One thing great about LA, LA News, is that you'll see anchors such as her, dressed up as if they're going to some sort of dance or an event or something, They're always dressed to impress, that's for sure, when it comes to LA News.
As the days pass, the frustration with the situation continues to grow, as y'all might imagine. Mario Ramirez live for us with the very latest on their fight for answers. Good morning.
Melvin, Jen, good morning. That overnight curfew was just lifted at 6 o'clock this morning, and we've already seen some residents gathering here looking for more information, basically begging for access into their neighborhoods. Now, you see here behind me just some of the hundreds of California National Guard members stationed here at San Vicente and 26th in place to keep these fire zones secure as the Palisades fire continues to burn, with another wind event moving in that could make things worse before they get better. Take a look. Thousands of firefighters.
Yeah, they said that wind's supposed to be picking up. 40 to 60 miles per hour hitting the area once again. So that's going to make things rough and difficult. And man, you know what? Overall, I hate wind. I personally just hate wind. Growing up to now, it's just like when I used to have longer hair, I used to part it, comb it to the side, and I would gel it and everything. And then a windy day, no matter what. Windy days blowing your hair around, you're trying to keep your hair neat, and then it just blows your hair, and just, I don't know, wind kicks up dust and particles, and wind sucks. I like running as well, and it's tough to run in windy conditions, and it just, yeah, everything about wind just sucks. That's why they say Chicago's the windy city. Besides a piece of shit woke run city government, it's the windy city. I would not live there because I just don't care for wind.
Fighters from across several states continue to battle the stubborn flames. With the break in the gusty Santa Ana winds, crews battled steep terrain as they tried to protect homes in Mandeville Canyon, northwest of the Getty Center and west of the 405 freeway in Brentwood, with some homes unfortunately overcome by flames. By 7 o'clock last night, the fire was 13% contained, up from 11% in the afternoon. But residents and officials are on edge with another strong wind event picking up, affecting West LA and much of Ventura County. LAPD Chief Jim McDonald, during a Sunday news conference, announced escorts would be suspended until further notice as crews start searching for human remains.
We still tried to facilitate it, although we weren't able to do that for everyone. Today we need to suspend that practice effective immediately. We have search operations now beginning. We will have cadaver dog deployment, and that will result in crime scene preservation efforts, and then the recovery of remains, working closely with the LA County coroner.
Now, in recent days, we've seen these long lines of cars waiting for possible police escorts into their homes. Dozens waited along San Vicente Sunday, only to find out that all of these escorts were canceled because of the fire activity and incoming winds. Now, these neighborhoods, even if homes are still standing, are still dealing with down utility poles and open gas lines and other public safety concerns surrounding these escorts. County officials say for those needing medications, they have Kaiser Permanente doctors working at the evacuation centers, and Walgreens has announced that it is filling medications without a prescription during the Southern California wildfires. For now, live in Brentwood, I'm Mario Ramirez. Send it back to you.
Yeah, in some spots, it's almost too dangerous to just get back in there as much as people want to. Especially with the winds that are potentially on the way, Maria.
Yeah, big concern. We've been talking about yet again another round possible, and here we are with the peak winds expected to be tomorrow into Wednesday. I'll go over those details in just a bit. Good morning to you on this Monday. We do start with well, some breezy conditions where Ventura County, Camarillo, Oxnard, out in that area, particularly through parts of the 5 freeway and that Grapevine. This is where that bright color is at. So we're talking about 20, 35 miles per hour here. A little bit lighter down in the basin, downtown LA, near Compton, not so bad. But Malibu Hills, we're talking about 25 to 35 mile per hour wind gusts there. Up into San Bernardino, that drive up to the mountains will be quite gusty. That drive through parts of the Cajon Pass, that 210 freeway will be gusty, as well as parts of that San Gorgonio Pass. But not bad when you consider what we are expecting it to be as we get to tomorrow morning, tomorrow night, and into Wednesday. Temperatures are chilly, so bundle up as you head out the door. We've got 18 degrees in Lancaster, 42 in Burbank. Look at downtown.
Good morning, Maria. And you know what? It's going to be the northbound 1,000 feet because we need.
As opposed to the lights from the fire.
That's right.
Along the ridgeline, like we've been seeing every day.
Yeah, a little.
All right, let's see what else we got going on here. It's just kind of. I want to know what else we got here. Let's see. Gavin Newsom's distracted with his obsession with Donald Trump just because Trump was critical.
Why does it feel like some people have more time than others? Because they manage it better by doing this one thing. Time is an incredibly important
Democrats
asset.
hate criticism because when they get criticized,
so how can we get more?
No matter what, they'll still deflect. No matter what, they're going to deflect. They hate taking blame. They hate being criticized. And if you are a Democrat criticizing a Democrat, oh man, it is on. They will beat you down like a man. All I got to say is it's bad. All right, they're gonna really make an example out of you for being a Democrat, exposing the Democrat lies or idiocracy. It's crazy. And then you've seen that firsthand with many of these Democrats turning against their own. And what happens? They get shunned. It's like a cult.
With the Los Angeles fires, 24 lives lost, more than 10,000 homes destroyed, and over 100,000 people evacuated. Beautiful suburbs reduced to rubble and ash.
Crazy. Look at all that.
The face of LA completely changed, perhaps permanently. And after a week, the catastrophe is still ongoing. 3 major fires still raging, fanned by the Santa Ana winds. And
that
you can see here's
still,
where
looks
the
like it's
active blazes are ongoing.
Yeah, this
and
is the
now
crazy
the
one there, the
districts of
Palisades.
Bel Air and Brent.
That Palisades one is pretty crazy when you look at that map. and this is all like hills and mountain and all that, right? That they failed to just simple cleaning up, maintaining the scenery, right? The shrubberies and dead foliage and all that stuff. Only if they just did what they're supposed to do, right? Only if they had the reservoir nearby filled, right? And I was right, all right? If you go look at the information that's out there, that reservoir that they could have used at the Palisades, right? I covered this right here. Why was a 117 million gallon reservoir not used during the Palisades, which was right in that area, and it was empty? And they said, oh, because the cover on it had a cut or slit, and it would allow particles and bacteria to come in, and it would just contaminate that water, right? And it would be bad to use, supposedly, right? And so it has been offline since February 2024, all right? So almost a year. And guess what? Further information shows that there's been zero work being done, no construction materials, no construction trucks, no maintenance crews, nothing in that area. All right, not even sniffing the gates of the complex of that dam or the reservoir. And so that really tells you that, one, they really got nothing going on. They shut that thing down perhaps for nothing, right? And it really goes against the fabric of Newsom saying, oh, we got our reservoirs, they're at full capacity and blah, blah, blah. And then I know that he tried to push off that, when it was questioned about the empty one, it was, well, all the state ones are full. I can't speak for the city ones. I can't control what the city does. And it's like, get out of here, man. You're garbage. The thing about it is that there is questions as to why is that reservoir, if it's supposedly in maintenance, does it take a year of nothing to do anything? You know what I mean? Like, there's something up, And so it's funny how the Democrats are just being exposed for their idiocracy. As more and more time goes, they get further exposed, and it's just funny how it is. How he deflects, doesn't take the blame, tries to act like he's doing everything in his power, he's doing great things, and it just really makes him look stupid, and it's just funny. But yeah, come to find out, that reservoir was empty for about a year, and nothing has been happening, which is funny.
Blazes are ongoing. And now the districts of Bel Air and Brentwood are facing fire warnings that they could be under threat. And this may very well be the worst natural disaster in American history.
This is crazy.
And these fires weren't a shock. The Santa Ana winds have fueled wildfires throughout Southern California's history. LA's environmental factors and the fire risk are well known.
Yeah,
so
it's been an ongoing thing forever.
Should have been prepared, but they weren't. They're hopeless.
It's just like how Florida, Georgia, that area, they prepare for hurricanes when it's hurricane season. It's the same thing. It's wildfire season in California. In Southern California, that is. Northern California mainly during the summer. Southern California, I don't know if it's a year-round thing or if it's just, right now type of thing with, the Santa Ana winds. I would have to further research the Santa Ana winds and all that, how frequent those winds occur. But fire season typically up north in Northern California, when it's hot summertime, you got to worry about the growth and dead growth and trees and all that stuff, being sparked on fire because of the heat. I know it's a different story because we're in the middle of the winter, but yet Santa Ana winds are always kicking, and it just takes the right recipe of winds. Maybe the sun's shining on a particular shiny object, and next thing you know, it sparks a little kindle of flame, and it gets bad from there. So yeah, it's very fascinating stuff here.
This response unforgivable. They should have done everything in their power to mitigate the fire risk and reduce the fuel.
Exactly.
Instead, they prioritized ideology
Yep.
and virtue signaling.
Yep.
And now there's uproar, quite rightly, about why tiny fish and diversity quotas were more important than saving homes.
No, but Gavin denies all that. Oh, what are you talking about? Some Delta smelt, you know? And ideology bullshit and virtue signaling, all that stuff. I mean, it's all true though, and it's just funny because I just don't get why they always want to go after fire department and law enforcement budgets when it comes to a spending problem that either cities or states or counties have. That's the first thing they try to go for. Yeah, you know why they get paid these salaries or why they have that certain amount of budget? It's because these are dangerous jobs and you got to compensate. You got to compensate well. You got to have the best equipment for the job, right? And you got to have things to have in order to if it's not to work in these situations, it's to help maintain a situation, right, in general. So it just doesn't make sense to me why they always try to go after that. How about when they cut their own city officials' salaries instead, and all these excess workers that you don't need in the city offices and all that, and then you realize that there could be some big stuff, or cut some programs that you don't need, like especially towards illegals and some of these other social programs that may deemed as necessary, but it's really unnecessary.
And saving lives. Well, in a nutshell, here's what's gone wrong. Fire hydrants had no water in them. A major reservoir was left empty and unable to be used. No new dams were built despite funding approval 10 years ago.
Right. So what she was referring to is, there was a proposition passed in 2014. All right, we've talked about this. I think we might have touched on it, that he's been tearing down dams, dam destroying. But yeah, going back, that might have touched on it here and there. But the details I got from it was that no dams have been built, and there's been a proposition that was passed back in 2014 that were supposed to build, call for new dams to be built, and yet not a one. There's nothing that has broken ground. Right? They've emphasized a money pit like high-speed rails and the money funneling of the homeless program. All these billions of dollars to all this bullshit, and no reservoir. Like, not even. I don't even think there's any, concept or any sort of, like anything whatsoever to do with dams, or even on the radar of being done or built or anything, which is crazy. And I'm surprised that it took, 10 years and I guess a wildfire to say, hey, how come there's no dams being built? You know what I mean? And he made a publicity of tearing down, what was it, like 2 to 4 dams up north to give back to the natives and to protect the Delta smelt and all that. And, and other, I guess, salmon flow and all that other stuff, and divert the rest of the water into the ocean when we could use all that water at any given time, because droughts always come to California, and we're always constantly have to conserve and cut back and do all these different things that they force us to do, to come to find out that all this water, especially these rainy seasons we've had for the last several years, all of a sudden they just run it off into the river or into the ocean, and it's like, oh shit. It'd be nice to like be able to water your grass and just do the typical things for once and not have to worry about a drought. And so we've been out of droughts for a few years, and all of a sudden it's because the rainy seasons, and we could have a hell of a lot more water if they just don't run into the ocean, And then 17 million cut from the budget. That's been no secret, right? It's been so harsh and critical to the LA mayor that she wants to fire the fire chief for insulting her like that, even though it's the truth. And yet she's not going to do it now because it's just going to make the mayor look even worse than she already is, since there's calls for her to resign. So she's going to fire the fire chief later. Oh, that's coming. You know it.
The city's fire budget was cut by $17 million US, that is, last year, and firefighting equipment was sent offshore.
Yeah, to Ukraine. All right, of all places, they say, "Oh, here's some fire equipment on behalf of us to Ukraine." All right, which is kind of stupid at the same time. Like, okay, Ukraine is Ukraine, yeah, whatever, right? For their situation they're in, but yet we always have, fire season going on here, especially in Southern California. The region that donated this equipment, LA, you would think you will want this stuff on hand just in case.
And as for the leadership, well, LA Mayor Karen Bass knew there was a high fire risk, but shrugged her shoulders and went on a free trip to Ghana. And when she was pressed on this by a reporter, here was her incredible reaction or non-reaction.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today? Have you absolutely nothing?
She is back practically cornered. I thought this was like some sort of luggage pickup area here, but she was just kind of cornered, stuck. Nowhere to really go at that moment, and it was just funny because I think what it was is that she thought she was the only one in the room, so that's why she just was oblivious and quiet, because she thought she was really truly alone. That's just what it is.
Nothing to say to the citizens today?
And then the city's fire budget was cut by $17 million US last year. And that's according to the Los Angeles fire chief, Kristen Crowley, who said this impacted on wildfire preparation. But her own handling wasn't so great either. According to the Wall Street Journal, only 5% of her department's budget was spent on fire prevention, 5%. And Crowley has called diversity, inclusion and equity a top priority. And then there's...
Yeah, I just don't get it. Like, I don't get why DEI is such a huge priority. Like, and I mean, when you think about it, right, common sense wise, like, who cares? Like, who really cares if you need more women or if you need more of a race, right? It shoots the idea of qualification out the window because sometimes you need skills, sometimes you need the know-how, sometimes you need experience. Maybe you could get trained, but at the same time, it's like if you have someone that has a pretty impeccable record or credentials to really back up, that person's status-wise, and you're not going to hire that person just because it's not a she or it's not a non-white person. Like, really? Like, come on now. We got other shit to worry about, all right? And, qualification for something is not a bad thing. It should be a good thing. And I just don't get why you would hire someone that's not qualified to do a job, that might not have the skills, that might not ever get the skills because they're just a color or gender higher, and they fall short because they'll always have shortcomings, right? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to throw women under the bus, but the reason why women are not firefighters, I wouldn't say all of them are not, but they're a smaller number is because, well, look at the job at hand, right? I mean, the job in itself, it's a grind, right? It's heavy workload of work. So what are you going to do if it's too heavy for you or you can't handle it, right? Hey, you're going to ask your firefighter next to you, hey, can you pick that up for me? Can you pull that for me? No, right? I mean, that's what it is. You can't lower standards to do the job. I mean, there's a reason why there's standards in the first place. It's because it sets a bar, it sets because there's limitations to a particular job, and for example, why not just have a cop with a felony record just work as a cop? Why not? Just because. I always hear the same argument. It's pretty funny, actually. Some of the thieves, right? They're actually pretty smart, right? Because that's why they're thieves. They come up with tricks and ideas on how to break into something, whatever, right? They could use those same skills to be detectives, or that's always a stupid argument, but because they could think out of the box and they could do all these extra things, but yet they're still criminals, right? Why don't you hire them, right? Because they have a different set of thinking skills, right? No, because they have a criminal record still. That's the whole point. So it's the same thing, right? When it comes to skills and qualifications, there's a reason why you have to meet a certain requirement to do a certain job, because sometimes that particular knack of things that you have is what you need to do the job versus the person that doesn't have it. I mean, it's like, duh, common sense. But yeah, common sense ain't so common.
Governor Gavin Newsom. He's been so distracted by his obsession with Trump that he dropped the ball on protecting his own people.
Shit, long
In recent
ago.
months, he's spoken about Trump-proofing California. But what about fireproofing California?
I wonder if this special session that's supposed to take place today is happening in Sacramento. I mean, because that's what's supposed to be happening, the Trump-proof California, right? There's this special session that shouldn't even exist in the first place. Like, why? You know what I'm saying?
Retribution and revenge is pretty clear. We responded to his assault on California where he tried to unwind our progress. And so what we're doing now with the special session is not waiting to react to that. We're preparing for that in a more sober way.
You see that shit? Newsom wants $25 million for legal fights with Trump. Like, for what? All right? Like for what? Because a president that makes sense and trying to make sense out of California politicians, to kind of wake up from this crap that we've been living in, and he wants $25 million to fight against that. For what?
With the special session is not waiting to react to that. We're preparing for that in a more sober way.
To think Newsom wanted to be president. Surely he's finished after this.
Oh, he got to be.
Voters are furious and have turned against him. And Newsom told one upset voter that he was literally on the phone to the president.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
But it turned out he actually wasn't literally on the phone to the president at all.
Yeah,
my daughter's
so full of shit.
Governor, please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't believe it.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through.
Well, that's the problem with these officials. Their ideological, political obsessions are more important to them than fulfilling basic obligations to keep people and their homes safe. One of the biggest issues in this whole saga has been the lack of water, the water restrictions, all because of the laws around protecting a tiny fish called smelt. Trump has spoken about this on his social media.
That Newsom tries to deny that they're not, he's not trying to protect some Delta smelt, so he says some line like that. It's like, come on, dude, get the fuck out of here.
Accounts and in press conferences.
It's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called the smelt. And for the sake of the smelt, they have no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants.
Well, what's Governor Newsom's response to all of this? Well, he's announced an independent inquiry, but he also claims there's misinformation and he's spoken about cheap political shots.
It's a cheap
the
fake.
Reservoirs are complete.
Yeah, the reservoirs are full. It's a cheap fake, right?
Full of the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them.
Yeah, but it wasn't misinformation. The reservoir wasn't full.
That one reservoir that serves the Palisades was not full.
And that's exactly what triggered my desire to get the investigation, to understand what was happening with that local reservoir. That was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta and somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate, also incomprehensible to anyone.
Come on, man. It's semantics, dude. This guy is just a dummy. All right, the reason why you don't have water flowing to these reservoirs and all these other places in California is because you are trying to protect the Delta smelt and you are running the water into the ocean. So to say that, the way he's saying things, it's just, he's so full of shit, just because his interpretation and his way of saying it is different, and he's taking things out of context. And that's the problem with these politicians. They always take snippets or things out of context and really are not looking at the whole thing, right? They did it in the first place to protect the smelt. Duh. We didn't do this. It's groveling is what he's doing right now.
One that understands water policy in the state.
Well, there's no question the 117 million gallon reservoir was offline, was out of commission. Fire hydrants simply have had no water in them. And this has been widely reported. And the Wall Street Journal also reported that the smelt fish water protections led to billions of gallons of water being flushed out to the Pacific Ocean each year, along with chronic water shortages. The Wall Street Journal reports, and I quote, that Mr. Newsom opposed Mr. Trump's first-term efforts to ease the fish protections. They write, you can lead California progressives to water, but you can't make them think.
Straight up.
But when you can't deal with questions about why fire hydrants are empty, why a reservoir was empty, why there isn't enough water supply, well, of course, just blame misinformation. And the left media is upset that Facebook and X won't help them censor the shocking truth. Now that Mark Zuckerberg is on the same page as Elon Musk in ending the so-called fact-checking, it's really censorship in disguise. California's mismanagement is not a surprise, and it's not isolated to the area of fire protection. It extends to drugs, crime, homelessness, petty theft. And there's a sensational New York Post editorial about this. It says, with a Democratic governor, Democratic mayors, Democratic city councils, and a Democratic justice system, the progressives have darkened the land of perpetual sunshine. This week's devastating wildfires are the pinnacle of Democratic incompetence. Environmentalists
We've been
and
saying that for a long
politicians
time.
refuse to clear the underbrush that fueled the flames. A reservoir in Pacific Palisades was shockingly closed for repair. This is a reckoning. The voters must demand total change. Democrats have enjoyed one-party rule in California for too long. And there is no one else to blame for what has happened. California is not paradise lost. California is paradise squandered. The people must take it back. It's an excellent editorial. I recommend you read it.
I think California should be federally taken over and really just root out the leadership here, because it's been terribly ran into the ground, and it needs a douching is what it needs. All right, it needs a douching, and I think a federal takeover should be something to kind of reestablish a new line once again, and to kind of just reboot the California system. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just so bad. And usually I don't usually ask or call for, or even consider federal government to even step in for anything, but they need to, because California is just a muck and a mess and a shell of what it was, that they've completely lost themselves in some bullshit. All right, and this is what you got right here. You got what you voted for, all right, because it feels good. It feels good, right? Democrats, it feels good, and now they're experiencing it in their backyard in the Palisades, right? And so this is what I mean. It's what this one YouTuber I follow, the Black Conservative, he says right here. In order for these people, liberals, progressives, to change, in order to get these people to change, you got to give them what they want. This is what you want. This is what you got, and look what happens. All right, this is the results of it, and that's not just the wildfires, but the crime, the homeless, the illegals, the overspending, and then they want to tax us more, the inflation. I mean, you name it. It's been a disaster, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse.
But LA, that we know is home to Hollywood's sunshine, wealth and opportunity, well, it's now the global face of woke mismanagement.
Yep.
It's the extreme example of putting ideology above common sense.
I think the mayor should resign. I don't know. She could probably be recalled if she doesn't resign. She might have a lot of pressure too. Governor, he's too arrogant to even consider resigning or to do anything, right? He's going to try to weather through it. And even if you try to petition for recall and all that, the process takes forever, and he'll be out of office by next year anyway. So you got to weather through Newsom, which sucks. But yeah, so because he's just his arrogance, and if anything, you just got to just vote. Anytime they try to propose for something on a ballot measure or anything to do whatsoever, just vote it all down. I mean, that's the only thing you can do to send the message. But all you dummies out there, all you elites, all you rich people that have been following Democrats for years, even though they've been screwing everybody else, you guys got to wake up.
But the biggest and saddest question now is, how does LA rebuild from this? The 10,000 families who've lost everything they own. Where do they go now? Where do they live? How do they recover? So many don't have insurance, and that's another story. But it's incomprehensible to think how much has been destroyed and how many homes have been lost. The extent of the destruction is the outcome of extreme incompetence of Californian Democrats, whose shocking decisions unquestionably exacerbated the fires. And they've been exposed, but you have to ask, at what price?
Shit. Oh, that's all I got to say. Shit. And they've oftentimes recently compared DeSantis, right, from Florida, how he would have fared in California in terms of managing it. He would have just managed it, just like he managed the hurricanes in Florida and all that. And look what happened. Everything's good and dandy in Florida. And it goes back to all the other decisions there. He never did the whole lockdowns during COVID. He kept the state open, and they looked taboo from the surface. I remember the news and headlines. Oh, it's so bad. It's so taboo. He's keeping the state open. He's not doing lockdowns and stuff. California did lockdowns, and we've been suffering ever since the lockdowns, right? Oh, the mask mandates and all this other crap, right? Oh, if you don't get your COVID shot, you're going to get fired and all that. With some jobs required it, and some either did it, so they don't get fired, or some just said, no, I'm not putting that shit in my body, and they get fired, you know. So yeah, this is a reference here. Investigate Gavin, where he got the $9 million on a $200,000 salary. Are you referencing to the $9 million home, I'm guessing? But that's easy. That's the easy answer. High-speed rail, homeless program. The homeless program is probably the biggest eyesore. All right, and illegals. Those are the big three. All right, I think those are just traps of money. That with those traps of money, they are probably funneling a lot of it into their pockets between Gavin and other corrupt Democratic politicians in California and the respective associations, whether it's the companies, whether it's the organizations, whomever are tied to illegals, or whomever is tied to high-speed rail, whomever is tied to the homeless. All right, when it comes to people, organizations, entities, whatever, they're all spreading the joy of billions of dollars spread amongst one another, and then that's how you get a Gavin with a $9 million home on a $200,000 salary, right? So yeah, it's just funny how things are. And see, Gavin gets what he deserves after NBC reporter fact checks his lies. That's references to that interview I played yesterday, and parts of it I played in today's video here. So 13% containment is where it stands, and that's where it is. 24 dead right now total as we speak. What else here? So 24 dead, 13% containment, especially on the main fire of the Palisades. Let's see, what else is there? Why is she smiling? That's a couple of headlines I've seen that now where it says that she's smiling and stuff. I wonder what that's about. See right here, bizarre video. Let's take a look at this one.
Los Angeles is battling through the worst fires in its history. At least 24 people have tragically been killed. More than 150,000 have been forced to flee their homes. 10,000 structures have been completely destroyed, including some of the country's most expensive real estate. And when the fires broke out, LA Mayor Karen Bass was in Africa. And when she returned, instead of answering critical questions from reporters, she chose to just ignore those questions and stay silent.
Do you owe citizens an apology for being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
I liked it when the question was asked, Elon Musk says that you're incompetent or some shit like that. It's pretty funny.
You absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
It's like insulting her in her face. It's so funny. Elon Musk says you're utterly incompetent. I don't know. I'd laugh when I heard that. It's like insulting her in her face.
Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
You know, I mean, like I said, I think she thinks she was the only one in the room. You know, that's just what it is.
No apology for them?
Yeah, she just itching to go. She could not.
Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding back home?
Karen Bass had a choice in that moment. Instead of fronting up and showing leadership, she ran away. Who else would like to know why she approved an $18 million budget cut for the LA Fire Department? Why a major reservoir, which holds 117 million gallons of water, has been sitting empty for almost a year, which meant that smaller tanks were quickly exhausted and fire hydrants were running dry as firefighters risked their lives trying to save homes. And why did Karen Bass have nothing to say as the people of Los Angeles were going through the most horrifying experience that was made worse because of the government's mismanagement? Well, after ignoring reporters and showing no leadership at the start of this crisis, Karen Bass has posted a bizarre video where she appears slightly upbeat and even smiling as she tells the people of LA that she's seen the devastation.
Angelenos, we're still going through it, and to any of you and all of you,
I bet some woke, progressive, liberal, young staff said, "Hey, you should put out a little TikTok video or put out a, IG video here, and kind of show the people that you're looking out for them. I think it'd be great. As so many people would see it, it'll be great." And she's like, "Oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea." And so this is what happens here.
That have experienced the loss, the grief, the anger, the just utter shock. I've seen the devastation. It is unbelievable the amount of loss that people have experienced. But we have to get through this crisis, and I know that we will. I was at the Sylmar command post today, and I saw the work of our first responders and how they've been able to defeat the fires in certain areas. We know we still have much more to go, and we know the winds are going to kick up again. But we got to stick together. We got to stand strong. And then we have to rebuild our city. We're the nation's second largest city, one of the greatest cities in the world. And
is that helpful? The people of LA don't need to be told that she's seen the devastation.
It's helpful of me just looking at her.
They're all experiencing the heartbreak and devastation for themselves. They also don't need to be told that LA is the nation's second largest city. They need answers, they need leadership, and they need to know why decisions were made that meant that LA was not prepared to fight these fires. Well, there are calls for Karen Bass to resign, and those calls are getting louder. Almost 100,000 people have signed a Change.org petition demanding that she steps down due to the gross mismanagement of the fires. And Karen Bass isn't the only one facing calls to resign. President-elect Donald Trump is calling on the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, to stand down. Writing on Truth Social, Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him. He wanted to protect an essentially worthless fish called a smelt by giving it less water, but didn't care about the people of California. Now the ultimate price is being paid. Now, Trump has been criticising Newsom's forest management for years. Back in 2019, he wrote, "I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. They must also do burns." Trump warned Newsom to, quote, "get his act together and to open the closed water lanes coming down from the north." But Gavin Newsom now claims that he doesn't know what Trump is talking about, and he also tries to claim that all of the reservoirs in California are full. Just look at this spin.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. We've seen this already. It's so full of shit. There is a petition circuit. Look at this right here. This is for signatures for a class action lawsuit for the residents of California to Gavin Newsom, circulating here. I guess you click for more information on this particular thing by Grant Cardone, who's a big-time mover and shaker. He had a home in Southern California in this area, got burned down, but he actually lives in Florida. That's where his home is now, but he used to live in California, real big on real estate too, and he started circulating this as well. So yeah, Gavin Newsom's so full of shit, man. I mean, he's just a scumbag. This guy spins, scumbag, piece of shit. All right, let's go back to her.
Trying to do his own PR, claiming that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and posted on X a link for people to get the facts about the fires. Now that takes you to gavinnewsom.com/California Fire Facts, which also directs people to donate to the California Fire Foundation. But that link that's on the top right-hand corner doesn't take you to the California Fire Foundation. If you click on it, what it actually takes you to is actblue.com/donate/CFDEM LA Fire 2025. Act Blue is a fundraising platform for the Democrat Party. On that link, It shows Newsom's
Democrats are a
campaign
bunch
for
of
democracy
scumbags.
and informs donors that they'll be signed up for text updates from the Political Action Committee. Professor Joseph Siracusa says that Gavin Newsom can kiss the White House goodbye.
Oh, he's gone. You know, he can kiss the White House goodbye. This is a political disaster. Americans expect their governors and their mayors and their police chiefs and fire chiefs to get a handle on this, and they were poorly prepared for this. And keep in mind, there are, I think, 7 major water facilities that were supposed to be built, but they couldn't meet the ecosystems criteria as a result.
Yeah, environmentalist policies and, the red tape, right? Shit like that. And supposedly he has those restrictions lifted for the LA rebuild, but we'll see about that.
Result of Newsom's pushing on this angle here. So he's going to have to bear the burden here. And I do not think Kamala Harris is going to rush in to replace his job, because there's a lot of people there who are angry, and with good reason.
Annalise Nielsen is on the ground in Los Angeles.
Streets normally gridlocked with traffic are held clear for emergency workers, while entire neighbourhoods remain closed, those both at risk and those already hit. Many residents don't know if their homes are still standing.
It's my parents' house. They're 79 and 85, and my dad's sick, and he's asking about his house because he spent his entire life, wanting to live by the sea or having a house by the sea.
We found Cindy Salcedo with her bike, trying to get around the roadblocks.
Trying to find out if our house is still standing. You can't get past Getty Villa.
Was police checks on the Pacific.
Out if our house is still a hard stop.
Armed with an address and our press credentials, we made our way past the police checks on the Pacific Coast Highway, where house after house had burned to the ground. So many, in fact, it was hard to tell where her father's home was even supposed to be.
I'm going to send you a photo. I don't know if we have good news for you. So I'm sorry.
Okay, I understand. Any news is something I'm grateful. Thank you so much. It came in 20. Oh, yeah, 20. I think you're in the right spot.
I'm really sorry. I was hoping this would be a good news story.
I got information and now I know. No, but thank you. It's at least now I have a little bit of closure.
While those living in this city under siege want answers.
This right here undoes all the years of conservation and trying to keep the air clean and all that stuff. I mean, imagine all this right here. What's the setback on all the years of trying to keep it clean and all that? This right here. When it comes to smoggy air and all that. It's just funny how environments are a bunch of dummies.
For why government authorities weren't better prepared.
Well, I want to know why we didn't have enough water for all the fire hydrants.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, it's easy. Environmentalists, fuck them.
Oh, of course. Of course. They cut the budget, of course. And like I say, I want to emphasize.
Fuck the Democrats. Fuck the environmentalists, right?
More than anything, how amazing our firefighters are and the first responders. None of this is on them. We are immensely grateful for everything they did with the limited resources they had towards the end, because they have not, they went to every neighborhood that they could. And like I said, just the fact that they had the foresight to throw our flammables into our pool so that our house wouldn't ignite and that they put out the fire on our hedge, they were there at least. Do you know what I mean? They tried to do what they could, and we answered.
Out threatening new neighbourhoods, just as slower winds were supposed to give firefighters some reprieve. What makes firefighting so difficult and dangerous in the canyons surrounding Los Angeles are tiny spot fires just like the one you can see here. It is small but has the potential to climb quickly up.
And it's because of the embers flying around in the air, they land, and if it hits a particular, could be anything, that can ignite a spark, and the next thing you know, it starts these fires, and all the dead trimmings and stuff, foliage and whatever, those are just fuel to feed the fire, and it could just get big in no time. So it just depends on how quickly we could react to it, and all that.
The mountainside,
and
we're just on the cusp of a highly populated area of Los Angeles that has already been evacuated. At the same time, firefighters are doing those water drops to try to...
So it's only 13% contained, all right? So we're going to stay up to date on this stuff and continue incompetency of local and state government, all right? And we're going to see what happens, and we'll stay on top of all this as... I just find this fascinating stuff here. And, how these Democrats are truly exposed for what they really are. They're trash, straight up. Anyhow, let's see. That's the latest on everything. Look at 10 burglary suspects arrested. They'll probably be catch and release, right, because it's soft on crime, California. Anyhow, that's another story. Comment down below, subscribe, and thank you, and I'll see you next one.